Manchester United, we know that they need to sell. Darmish, Rasmus Højlund, let's start with him. Is he any closer to getting a move away from Man U?
Not yet, but look, we know AC Milan were interested. They wanted to do a loan with an option. It's understood now that AC Milan couldn't convince Manchester United forward Rasmus Højlund to join on those current terms because Manchester United and Højlund, in an ideal scenario, wanted a permanent deal. Now, this may sound like I'm about to contradict myself because of what I'm about to say. Milan, meanwhile, are now trying to close a deal for the Bayer Leverkusen striker Victor Boniface. RB Leipzig, they have been tracking Rasmus Højlund throughout this transfer window. They have been speaking to Manchester United about a permanent deal. And if a deal can be agreed in the last 12 days with Manchester United, then it will be up to Rasmus Højlund to decide whether he wants to go. Now, here comes the contradictory bit, because Sky in Italy are now reporting that Napoli are now pushing really hard to try and do a deal for Rasmus Højlund, and it would be a loan with an option to buy. So not a permanent deal again. However, we think that Højlund might be more open to that particular deal than the AC Milan offer, because Napoli can offer Champions League football, which AC Milan cannot offer at the moment. Clearly, this would be by the by at the moment, because it would have to be cleared by Manchester United, any kind of deal that Napoli would propose, be it a loan with an option, because we do know that United's preference is to do a permanent deal. They want around £40 million for him, or if it is to be a loan, they would want some sort of permanent element attached to that deal. Initially, Rasmus Højlund wanted to fight for his place, but he was left out of the squad completely for that defeat on Sunday against Arsenal at Old Trafford. Head coach Ruben Amorim hasn't completely closed the door on Rasmus Højlund staying, but he has said that he shares the same characteristics as the new striker, Benjamin Sesko, and it is clear, given how the squad has been picked in the first game of the season, that Rasmus Højlund is going to find his game time limited. Definitely one to keep an eye on in the last 12 days, but it looks like now Napoli are pushing. They've got Romelu Lukaku, remember, who is injured. They don't know how long yet, but they think
so. That could be a key thing here.
It could be. It could be months rather than weeks at the moment, which would again imply what would happen if Rasmus Højlund went and then Lukaku gets fit. Is Rasmus Højlund going to be back up to Romelu Lukaku? Potentially, yes. But if he goes there, plays really, really well, then Antonio Conte might have a decision to make on his selection.
OK, interesting. We've got our eyes on that. Højlund, one of the players that they'd like to move on if possible. Garnacho is definitely in that camp as well.
Yeah, a player that's been muted about leaving Old Trafford over the course of this summer, but as of yet, there's been no firm offer to Manchester United. We know that Chelsea have been in dialogue with Manchester United throughout the course of this summer. It's a little bit of a poker match, really. Who blinks first? Because we know that Manchester United will value Alejandro Garnacho at around £50 million. And they're probably right to say that, because you look at the players that have moved in those kind of positions. Anthony Elanga, around £50 million. We know that João Pedro, around £50 million. There are multiple players that are all in that kind of remit. So that's where their price tag comes from. However, Chelsea would rather pay around £25–30 million. They want to, sniff out a deal here. And they believe the longer they leave it over the course of this summer, the greater chance they're going to be able to get the price they want, because they know that Manchester United need to sell as well because of the number of outgoings. Alejandro Garnacho has made it quite clear he has one preference and one preference only, and that's to join Chelsea and move to London. That's what his desire is. If you're asking me and putting me on the spot, I'd probably say Garnacho to Chelsea is probably a deal that happens. However, Chelsea have to be really careful about what they spend this summer, because they have this UEFA business plan, this agreement, that their player purchases do not exceed their player sales. They need to sell more than they spend, and that's where they're caught in a situation. Probably expect this one to rumble right to the wire.
Right, OK.
If you look behind us, there's one other player that we are going to talk about who is in the news as well with regard to departures. It is, of course, Jadon Sancho. Roma, they haven't given up on striking a deal for Jadon Sancho yet. Their head coach, Gianpiero Gasperini, he absolutely loves Jadon Sancho. He is the key driver of this deal. They made an offer worth £20 million did Roma to Manchester United, which I think United will probably agree to in principle. Then it was down to Jadon Sancho himself. However, as it stands, we think Sancho wants to explore other options in the final 12 days. Besiktas and Borussia Dortmund are among a number of clubs who are interested in Jadon Sancho. Besiktas managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but we don't think at the moment that Jadon Sancho wants to go to Turkey. But if we get to the end of this transfer window and he's still a Manchester United player, the Turkish window is actually open for another 11 days. So you'll be sitting here again for another 11 days, maybe talking
Keeps
about
me in a job,
Jadon Sancho.
mate.
Yeah, but again, another one to keep an eye on, a Jadon Sancho situation.
Gut feeling of those three players, Højlund, Sancho, Garnacho, who leaves first?
Who leaves first?
Yep.
There's only 12 days left, mate.
Who's the closest of those three to leaving Manchester United, do you think?
The one that looks the most likely, but
Yeah.
not necessarily going to leave first, is Garnacho,
Right.
as Mark mentioned there. Rasmus Højlund as well. I think they all will actually get a move before the end of this transfer window.
Yeah, you see that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with Jadon Sancho 1 year left, we know that Manchester United want rid of him. The Højlund stuff, it feels like it's just a case of where does he go? Leipzig, Napoli, unlikely to be Milan, and Garnacho, Chelsea. It's a marriage made in heaven. It just needs to happen.
Alejandro Garnacho, you've got an update there.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's going to leave Manchester United. Manchester United want to sell him. But the problem is that they value him at £50 million. Now, he only wants to go to Chelsea. Chelsea want to sign him, but they don't think he's worth £50 million. They think he's probably worth almost half that. I think they value him at around £30 million. The reason they think he's only worth £30 million is because they think he has no future at United and he wants to move to Chelsea. So much so that he's turned down a move to Bayern Munich. Right. I only want to go to Chelsea. Now, I've been trying to work out why are United asking for £50 million for a player who's not in Ruben Amorim's plans. Well, he's an Argentina international. He's still only 21. And if you look at other players with a similar profile who've moved this summer, they have moved for around £50 million. I'm thinking of players like Jamie Gittins. So I can see it from both sides. I can see why United are asking for £50 million, and I can also see why Chelsea are sort of trying their luck a little bit because they know that he's going to leave and they're trying to get him on the cheap, effectively.
Manchester United's transfer window is turning into pure drama. Two of their brightest young stars, Alejandro Garnacho and Rasmus Højlund, are now at the heart of massive transfer storms. Garnacho, once the jewel of United's future, has made it clear. It's Chelsea or nothing. Bayern Munich came knocking, but the Argentine winger snubbed them, pushing for a Stamford Bridge move that could shake the Premier League. Meanwhile, Højlund's story is more bitter. Signed for £72 million just last year, the Dane is already on the chopping block. AC Milan are leading talks for a loan with buy option, while Fulham lurk in the background.